Hey, howdy, hey, awesome people of the internet, Wolfman Force and Dash here. Halloween's nearly here. Obviously, it's tomorrow or whenever, or it's been and gone, depending on when you've seen this vlog. And today I'm doing another 10 or more or less video for you. This time I'm going to talk about horror films that are bad, but do have interesting concepts that the film just otherwise didn't do very well. So, as a lot of you know who saw my Q&A vlog earlier this month, I basically said that I find it difficult that one of the questions I was asked is my opinion the same as this one person where this person thinks that horror's not as good as it used to be, and my answer was yes, but I didn't like sort of leave it at that. I did sort of go into it. And the reason for that is that there's a lot of stuff that says about horror films. There's lots of great films, lots of bad films, and today we're just focusing on bad horror films that have interesting concepts. They're just bad, and whether that's bad execution, just bad acting, or whatever, they're just bad. So let's get to it. So, first up, Friday the 13th, Jason Takes Manhattan. I forget what the Roman numeral is, but yeah. So, this one is, as I recall, the final Friday the 13th film done under Paramount before he sort of jumps the boat onto New Line Cinema to sort of start establishing a crossover, which I'll talk about a bit later on. So Jason Takes Manhattan. It sounds like a great idea, sort of taking Jason out of Camp Crystal Lake and into the world of New York City. Great concept. Only downside is the film spent most of its time on a boat, with very little to do with New York City. And I think the reason behind that was that the film didn't exactly have the biggest of budgets, and I think at the time there was a lot of horror films that weren't really given big budgets because most people would have assumed that they didn't need big budgets because of how they are, but it is what it is. So it's kind of one of those examples where it has a good title, but the title just doesn't live up to its name, and that's the reason why it wasn't as good as some of the other films that are much better, unless you feel the whole thing about him trying to kill councillors in Camp Crystal Lake is just a rinse and repeat thing. But yeah, it is what it is. So next is The Nun. So The Nun is of course a spin-off to the Conjuring films. The Nun, Her, His, Itself, whatever, appeared in the second Conjuring film, I believe, or third. Yeah. The idea of a demonic nun, it sounds interesting. It sounds like it could be a very scary film. The film just ended up being too boring. yeah. I will admit, I did sort of try and overlook the fact that the film was boring, but I just couldn't get over how boring it was. Yeah, that's really the only reason why that film wasn't very good. Interesting concept, just was very boring for a film. So yeah, that's The Nun. So next is Lights Out. So I saw this at the cinema with my late sister. The idea of it is that you got this demon that obviously cannot appear when it's light, but can appear when it's dark, and she kind of has control of this mother, and it's down to the mother's children to try and to get the demon away from the mother somehow. The reason why I'm bringing this film up is that the concept, while interesting, it again does kind of not work because it's just boring again. Yeah, that's all I've got to say on that. You know, it's an interesting concept, but when you've got too much stuff to establish and everything, it's not really that scary. So that's just Lights Out. So this next film, I do actually have a soft spot for, because I saw it at the cinema, and I do like it for reasons I'll get to in a moment. And the film is Horns. So this is based on a book, and most people have said that the film is one of those films that doesn't really follow the book exactly to the point, or follows the sort of spirit of the book or anything. Personally, I've not read the book, so I don't know that for sure, but the reason I I'm bringing it up here is because it's meant to be. It's not really horror it's not really horror at all. It feels more like a dark fantasy, but people keep describing it as a horror. And yeah, that's really the only reason. And what I do quite like about the film is that it's got a very attractive cast, mostly a British cast trying to be play these American characters. Also, this is probably the first time I've seen Daniel Radcliffe since Harry Potter basically just play a very mature character. And if you like if you like Daniel Radcliffe in certain ways, you're not going to be disappointed, because he does have a scene where he does Beryl. So yeah, but yeah, Horns not that scary, not really horror. It's more of a dark fantasy, and that's the reason I've got it here. I don't actually know if the Wikipedia page has it up as dark fantasy, but yeah, I just don't find it that scary. So next is The Purge. This one has been talked about to death, and before I go into this, I'm going to be very specific and say that I'm talking about the very first film. The very first film obviously establishes the concept of the United States having this one day where you can basically just one night where you can just roam free, do all sorts of crimes and so forth, and not have the police hound you down, and you basically get to do that for a certain period of time. The only problem is the first film sort of didn't make it out to be all that scary. It was just pretty much very silly, and some of the acting, especially from the people that are actually doing the Purge, is just very silly and stupid and so forth. So yeah, but I'm kind of glad that the films did eventually get better in time. I've only ever seen the first two, and I can definitely say the sequels is a lot better, if not slightly. So yeah. Next, Unfriended. So, Unfriended is using the sort of concept of having a sort of Skype or video chat call that happens, and all these people are just having a chat and everything, but then some demonic being takes over the call and starts sort of terrorizing them and taking them out one by one. Yeah, interesting concept. But the thing is, especially nowadays when some of us are just way too used to using the internet, phone calls and video calls and everything, there's only so much you can do with that makes it interesting. And to be honest, it's the concept's kind of the sort of concept that you could probably do better as a short film than a feature-length film, because there's only so much characters can talk about on a video call before all the demonic stuff happens, and even when the exposition and so forth happened, it's not that exciting and interesting. It's just your typical Omegle call, or whatever the thing's called. Basically the website that lets you chat to random strangers, and I know there's a lot of videos of men with six packs showing off their six packs, and also on adult sites there's those ones where you're having a conversation with random strangers, and you got your stuff out and everything. So yeah, Unfriended, yeah, good idea, but probably would work better as a short film than the feature-length film, because there's only so much you can do, and the time that they filled it up in is, yeah. Now, this next one I saw quite recently at the cinema, called Long Legs. So in this one, Nicolas Cage plays this character that is a bit demented, a bit twisted and everything, and you got these people trying to figure out his crimes and try and sort of arrest him and so forth. And you know, for a film that's meant to be, I can't remember if it was A24, but it was kind of having an A24 vibe. But it's Nicolas Cage is a dramatic actor. He can play dramatic roles, but this was definitely not one of his dramatic roles. It was just, there was just nothing to it really, this one. So yeah. And this next one, sticking Nicolas Cage, is no better. The Wicker Man. That's been talked about to death. I'm obviously talking about the remake, the one that everybody knows. And the thing that makes this not really that great as a horror is that it's just too funny unintentionally, because you got all these actors doing stuff. You got Nicolas Cage going, "How did it burn? How did it burn?" and the rest of it, and it's just not that funny. Oh, sorry, it's just not that scary. It's more funny than scary, and I don't know if that was the filmmaker's intention, but it is what it is. So yeah. And the last one I'm going to talk about is going back to Friday the 13th, kind of sort of, is Freddy vs. Jason. So, Freddy vs. Jason is obviously a crossover. It's a crossover that the last few Friday the 13th films was building up to. The ones that New Line Cinema made, obviously. The film is basically what is pretty much more for the fans than general film goes. If you're going into this as someone that's never seen either of the films, you probably might enjoy it, might enjoy parts of it, or you won't enjoy it at all, basically. But what it does kind of do is that it kind of brings closure to the two respective film franchises, because this was actually the last film in both the Nightmare on Elm Street and the Friday the 13th franchises, as they were originally, before the respective remake and reboot, as well as being the last time that what's his face that plays Freddy Krueger, Robert Englund, this was his final time playing the role, although he would go on to voice the character in various video games. And I know there were plans to do a sort of Evil Dead crossover with those two as well, but that ultimately ended up turning into a comic book instead, with a follow-up series. And I think the whole concept of pitting two slasher killers against each other should work. It should really work, especially because Freddy Krueger cannot be brought into the real world, and when he is brought into the real world, he's weaker, and his weakness is fire, of course. Jason Voorhees is weak to water, so it's kind of like a sort of match made in heaven. That is sort of a thing that should work, but the thing is, it's so weird, so random, so over the top and everything, that the whole horror, that he kind of forgets about it being a horror. It's kind of more of a funny, bizarre, over-the-top kind of horror, if anything. I mean, it will certainly live up to fans' expectations for sure, but if you're the sort of person that doesn't really like those sorts of films, and you're just going into it because you don't really know what to expect from it, yeah, you're not going to enjoy it very, very much. So, good concept, definitely a good concept, and it will work for, and unlike most of these films that I've talked about in this video, this concept will work for some people, but not necessarily everyone. So yeah, and while there's like so many films out there that can be considered bad horrors, these are just 10 of the many horrors that I've seen that do have interesting concepts, but the films are just bad for whatever reasons those may be, as I mentioned. So yeah. Don't get me wrong, I did give these films a chance. I did really try to give them all a chance, but they just didn't work for me. And anytime I do these lists, these are just films and whatever that I myself have given a chance for. I've not picked them up based on what others have said. These are all things that I have really tried to give a chance and everything. So yeah, but yeah, that's what I've got to say about these 10 different films. If you've got films that you if you've got bad horror films that you think have great concepts but otherwise have poor execution and so forth, do let me know down in the comments, because I love to hear what you think, and I especially would like to check those bad horrors out. But other than that, thanks so much for watching. Like, share, comment and subscribe if you can, please. Those of you new to the channel, I do vlogs like this every Thursday, just talking about various topics. Monday and Tuesdays I do gameplay videos, where it's just a series of videos following a long game, and I'm alternating between 4 games at the moment. Every Wednesday I do a Let's Play video, just providing comedy and everything as I play a game, which I may or may not return to at a later date. And I also do other things as well during the week, including videos with friends, reviews on things I've seen and played, whatever, recently. Holes, rants on life, gameplay compilation videos, and loads more, and funny shots as well. See you in the next one. Peace to you all, and remember, even though a film may have a great concept, a great idea that may work, it doesn't necessarily mean that it will work. So yeah, alright. Toodles.